أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Surah Al-Maidah, ayah 51 to 66. يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who have believed, لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء. Do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. Why? Because بعضهم أولياء بعض. They are in fact allies of one another. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ, and whoever is an ally to them among you, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, then indeed he is one of them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people. As you know that this surah is a Madani surah. And in Medina, besides the Muslims, it was the Jewish tribes who resided there, as well as the mushrikeen initially, who later on became Muslim, and some of them actually became munafiqun. Initially they became Muslim, why? Just to get the benefits of being a Muslim, but Islam had not actually entered into their hearts. And we also know that in the Arab Peninsula, in the rest of the Arabia, it was the mushrikeen who lived. It was only in Medina primarily that the Muslims were there, and elsewhere the Muslims were very few, but mainly it was the mushrikeen who resided in the Arab Peninsula. But besides the mushrikeen, there were also some Christian tribes. As you know that from Najran, who came? The Christians of Najran, they came to visit the Prophet ﷺ. So in Arabia, there were the mushrikeen, there were the Yahud, there were the Nasara, and there were also the Muslims who lived over there. And we know that at the Battle of Ahzab, all of these different groups of people, all of these different followers of different religions, what did they do? They all came together against the Muslims, despite being followers of different religions. Why? In order to attack the Muslims, in order to attack Medina. In normal circumstances, they were enemies of one another. Who? The mushrikeen, the Jews, the Christians. Who were they? Enemies of one another. They had enmity, they had differences, they had hatred. But when it came to attacking the Muslims, when it came to opposing the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of them would come together. All of them would unite together. For example, the Yahud and the mushrikeen. We know that the Yahud, they looked down upon the mushrikeen. They were the ummiyun, the mushrikeen. And the Yahud, they were the Ahlul Kitab. So they looked down upon the mushrikeen. However, after the battle of Badr, when the Muslims were victorious, the Yahud, they went from Medina to Makkah to incite the mushrikeen against the Muslims. And the mushrikeen came to fight the Muslims at the Battle of Uhud. So, yes, they had their differences. They had enmity for one another. But when it came to opposing the Muslims, they would all come together. They would all come together. So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O believers, do not take the Yahud and the Nasara as your allies. Why? Because some of them, they are allies of one another. They may apparently seem to be different from one another, but when it comes to opposing you, they all come together. And we see that the Jews of Medina, they were financially very strong. They were financially very strong, which is why some Muslims, they wished to befriend them. Because remember that in Arabia, there was the tribal system. That if you had alliances with a tribe, then no matter what differences you have, if you go to war, they go to war with you. If you need help, they will definitely help you. So if you were friends with the Yahud, if you had alliances with the Yahud, then you have what? You have financial support. That no matter who is coming to fight against you, you will have their support, and therefore you will be victorious. Now we learned that the Prophet ﷺ, when he had migrated to Medina, he had made a covenant with the Yahud. And it was known as the Mithaq of Medina. And there were certain rules that everybody was supposed to follow, amongst them the Yahud, the Muslims, as well as the Mushrikun. However, the Jewish tribe of Banu Qaynuqa, they breached the covenant with the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ wished to take some action against them. Why? Because they had gone against the covenant. But Abdullah ibn Ubay, who was Abdullah ibn Ubay? He appeared to be a Muslim, but he was actually a hypocrite. He was a munafiq. He started his hypocritical role and he began to intercede for the Banu Qaynuqa persistently. And he began to say that I had alliances with them and I need to continue my alliances with them because I don't know what might happen in the future. If things go wrong in the future and I need their help, they're not going to come and help me. Why? Because I did not help them today. So he opposed the Prophet ﷺ in taking some action against the Banu Qaynuqa, saying that I will not allow you to take action against them. I am a person who fears the changing times. Today, things are okay for me. Tomorrow, if Muslims suffer loss, and if I need help, these Yahud, they will not come and help me. So, I will not let you take any action against them. And we learned that some other companions as well, who were sincere Muslims, they also disagreed when it came to taking action against the Banu Qaynuqa. However, when they were told directly by the Prophet ﷺ that this is something that must be done, they accepted. But Abdullah ibn Ubay, he refused to accept. And he opposed the Prophet ﷺ. Now remember that the Arabs, just to understand why this is a big deal, they had a very strong tribal system. And as I mentioned to you, that if you went to war, your tribe, even if they disagree with you, they're going to go to war with you. And not just your tribe, but another tribe with whom you have alliances, even they're going to come to war with you. Remember that in Makkah, for instance, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, his tribe was Banu At-Taym. And we learned that once Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he asked the Prophet ﷺ if he could go and do da'wah publicly, openly. But the Prophet ﷺ did not allow him. But again he asked several times until eventually he was allowed to go and do da'wah publicly. When he did that, Utbah and other mushrikeen, they came and attacked him and they beat him up to the point that he became unconscious. And the tribe of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, they came, they took him home, and when they saw his state, that he's at the verge of dying, they went to Utbah and they said that if you ever do something like this again to the member of our tribe, we're going to kill you. Now remember that the Banu Taym, they weren't Muslim. They were not Muslim. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was Muslim. But why were they saying that we're going to kill you if you harm Abu Bakr? Because he is one of us. He belongs to our tribe. Similarly, Abu Talib, he never became Muslim. But he gave his full support to the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Was it because he believed in him? What was the reason? Because he was his relative, because he belonged to the same tribe. So this is how important tribal alliances were. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O you who have believed, La tattakhidul yahuda wal nasara, don't take the Jews and the Christians as awliya, as close friends. Meaning, don't establish tribal alliances with them. Don't befriend them to such an extent that if they go to war, you go to war with them. Because it's possible that just because of your alliance, you have to go fight with them against who? Against some Muslims. And this is something that you're not allowed to do. So don't take the Yahud and the Nasara as awliya. Who are the Yahud? Those people who claim to be followers of Musa a.s. And who are the Nasara? Those people who claim to be the followers of Isa alayhi salam. Why are we saying they claim to be? Because they're not actually followers of Musa and Isa alayhi salam. Because if they were, then they would believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And remember that if a person disbelieves in even one messenger, it is as though he has denied all messengers. So their claim of believing in Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, it's only a claim. There's no reality to it. So don't take these people as awliya, as close friends. And awliya is a plural of wali from wilaya. And what does wilaya mean? Love, friendship, a very intimate relation. Don't think friendship to be any kind of friendship. This in particular refers to munasara, meaning helping one another. Mu'awana, cooperating with one another. Assisting one another, cooperating with one another. So don't take them as protectors and allies. That when they go to war, you go to war with them. Against Muslims or non-Muslims. That when they need help, regardless of whether their activities conform to your religion or not, you help them. Because up until now, people supported one another just because of tribal relationships, tribal alliances. But now, when the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects us to do certain things and not do certain things. But if we have such a deep alliance with someone who does not conform to the law of Allah, then in our friendship with them, are we going to be able to conform to the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given? No. This is why do not befriend them to such an extent that you have to help them, you have to support them, you have to be with them, you have to do what they're doing, regardless of whether their activities conform to your religion or not. Now remember that wilaya also includes love. It also includes mahabba. And there are different types of love. One is natural love that a person has for another. Like for instance, a person has love for their child, or a person has love for their spouse or for their parents. Now this natural love, this is allowed when it comes to loving the Jews and the Christians. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed marriage with them as well. As we learned earlier, that their muhsanat, they are lawful for you for marriage, as long as you give them their mahr. And we know that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. That between the spouses, He has created mawaddah and rahmah. So over here, wilaya does not mean any kind of friendship or any kind of love. This is what type of wilaya in particular? Munasara and mu'awana. That helping and cooperating with them, regardless of whether their activities conform to your religion or not. When it comes to being a good neighbor, when it comes to being a person with whom you work with and you're friendly with them, that's okay. But if you are friends with them to such an extent that you have to compromise your religion, that is not acceptable. So لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء. Why? Because بعضهم أولياء بعض. Some of them, they are close friends of others, meaning they are friends of one another. How? By being united in kufr. They become friends when it comes to opposing the believers. Because in their religion, they're not united. The Yahud, they would deny the Christians and they would negate the Christians and their belief, and at the same time the Christians, they would negate the beliefs of the Yahud. As we learned earlier, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ لَيْسَتِ النَّصَارَى عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى لَيْسَتِ الْيَهُودُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. What does that mean? They're together? No, there are differences when it comes to deen. But when it comes to political benefits, they all come together. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُمْ. And whoever befriends them, minkum, from you, meaning from you believers, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Then indeed he is among them. What does it mean by this? That whoever befriends them, then he will be of them. What does it mean by this? What does it mean by this? That whoever befriends them, then he will be of them. He will become of them. That he will become like them. فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, meaning he will become like them. Because friends, they're influenced by one another. You develop the habits of your friends. The way your friends dress up, you dress up like them. The way your friends speak, you speak like them. Where your friends go to hang out, you go hang out over there as well. So فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, that he will be of them, meaning he will become like them. In his habits, in his actions, in his beliefs, in his practices, he will take their influence. And not just in this dunya, but even in the akhirah. That he will be with them, he will be among them, meaning he will suffer the same consequences as them. So first of all, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, what does it mean? That on the apparent, in the actions, he will become like them. That he will perform the same actions as they perform. Secondly, in consequence, in the akhirah, he will have the same consequence as them. فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. إِنَّ اللَّهَ, indeed Allah, لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ, he does not guide those people who do dhulm. What dhulm are they doing over here? Compromising in the deen because of such friendship. Over here Allah says that Allah does not guide such people. What does it mean by this guidance? Which hidayah is this? This is hidayah tawfiq. Because Allah gives hidayah irshad to everybody. Even the non-believer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives knowledge of the deen even to those people who don't believe. Like for instance, we learned in Surah Al-Insan that إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided everybody, every human being, that either he can do shukr or he can be ungrateful. Either he can believe or he can disbelieve. So Allah has given knowledge to everybody. Similarly, for the people of Samud, we learn وَأَمَّا الثَّمُودَ فَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ فَاسْتَحَبُّوا الْعَمَى عَلَى الْهُدَى. That as for the people of Samud, we guided them. However, they preferred blindness over iman. So, what does it show to us? That إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ, that Allah does not give them tawfiq. Allah does not give them the ability to do any more good. When a person does zulm, by befriending such people, then he will lose the opportunity to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn about the importance of abstaining from the friendship of such people. Which people? The Yahud and the Nasara. How do we learn that this is something very important? That a person must abstain from befriending them. By the address, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Ya ayyuha, this is nida. What does that show? That the command is very important. Secondly, we learn that of the requirements of iman is that one must not have intimate friendship with the Yahud and the Nasara. Where do we learn that from? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, because alladhina amanu have been mentioned. Thirdly, we learn that if a person does befriend them, it is going to cause deficiency in his iman. Where do we learn that from? Again, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu. That if you have iman, don't do this. Because if you do this, it's going to affect your iman. It's going to cause a deficiency in your iman. We also learn from this ayah that the Yahud and the Nasara, they are friends of one another. We also learn that over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us against intimate friendship with the Yahud and the Nasara. Where do we understand that He is warning us? Where do we get the warning from? وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. That he doesn't have anything to do with the religion of Allah. Like we learn in many of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that مَنْ غَشَّ فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا وَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. What does that mean? That he has nothing to do with us. He has nothing to do with Islam. What does it mean? That a person who befriends them, then he will be off them. He will have nothing to do with the religion of Allah. So there's severe warning against befriending the Yahud and the Nasara in such a way. Now, what are the exceptions? I'm going to ask you a few questions and you tell me if that is permissible, if that falls under the category of befriending them. Can we take help from them against our enemy? Can we take help from them against our enemy when we need help? Okay, for example, you're living in this country. A person comes and robs your house. You're not going to call the police? Are you going to say, لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء? I'm not going to call the police. Can you take their help or can you not take their help? There's something that you must know. What's your evidence you can take help? Prophet ﷺ, he made a treaty, a covenant with who? The Yahud. And with the mushrikeen of Mecca also, he made a covenant, a treaty. And especially the covenant that he had made with the Yahud, what was it? That if we go to war, then you also have to come with us. If people attack Medina, you have to come and defend Medina with us. So there is a condition that if you are safe from their harm, from their khiyana, that there is some agreement of peace between you and them, then in that case you do take their help. So for instance, you're living in this country. You're a citizen. There is some kind of contract between you and them, that they have said that because you're a citizen of this country, you have our help, you have our support. So in that case, you are going to ask them for help when you need their help. Okay, another question. Can we be their fans? Like for example, if there's a superstar, you know what I'm talking about. Can we be their fans? Can we be their followers in the sense that we follow them online, what they're doing and where they're going and what their activities are? Is that permissible? If you admire them, if you love them, you follow them around, eventually what's going to happen? You're going to become like them. You're going to follow their actions as well. Okay. What about buying and selling from them? What's your evidence? The Prophet ﷺ did that. That in Medina, the Yahud used to live over there, and he used to buy and sell from them. They had a whole marketplace. And the Yahud in particular, they were very good at making arms and gold and silver and all of these things. They were very good at that. So the Prophet ﷺ would buy and sell from them. How about having them as guests? Inviting them over for a dinner. We learned that وَطَعَامُهُمْ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ وَطَعَامُكُمْ حِلٌّ لَهُمْ. Their food is lawful for you and your food is lawful for them. Which is why we see that having them as guests and going over to their place as guests, obviously as long as the food is halal, it is permissible. So for instance, eating at their restaurant, it is permissible. If they invite you to dinner or something like that, as long as you know that the food is permissible, it is okay for you to go. How about going to their wedding? Calling them to your wedding, is that permissible? Yes, it is. What's the evidence? Because the Muslim men are allowed to marry the Christian or Jewish women as long as they're muhsanat. So obviously if you're allowed to marry them, are you not allowed to attend their weddings? You are. As long as what they do is appropriate. As soon as you see that there's something haram going on, then you leave. Just as even if you go to the wedding of a Muslim, and if there's haram going on over there, you're not going to stay over there, you're going to leave. But you're not going to deny going to their wedding just because they're non-Muslim. So basically we see that when it comes to befriending them, when it comes to dealing with them, we are allowed to befriend them as long as our deen is not compromised. As long as our deen is not compromised. If you see that in any kind of relationship with a non-Muslim, your deen is being compromised, then stop there. That's a danger sign. Then stop there. That because of their fear or because of their influence, you see a clear difference in your deen, you see a difference in your commitment to the deen, then that's a warning sign. Stop there. Limit your interaction with them. Limit your friendship with them. Because your deen is getting compromised. So what do we learn from this? that a person under no circumstances should compromise on his deen. A person under no circumstances should compromise on his deen. We also learn from this ayah that whoever befriends them is going to become like them. And remember that becoming like them, is there a problem in that? What's the problem? The Prophet ﷺ said that man shabbaha qawman fahuwa minhum. That whoever resembles a people, then he is of them. So, of muwalat with them is that a person practices their customs and their traditions. You understand what I'm getting towards? That a person practices their customs and their traditions blindly. So over here when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that don't take them as close friends, what does it mean? If you do that, you're going to become like them, meaning you're going to follow their customs, their traditions. If they're celebrating Christmas, you're going to do that. If they're celebrating a particular event, you're going to do that. If they're celebrating birthdays, you're going to do that. Even if it has no foundation in your religion. You're going to develop the same customs, same traditions.